The sun had barely set when smoke began to rise from the corner of Mumba Street. The smell of roasting meat floated through the air, dancing into every corner of the bustling neighborhood. People began to gather, their mouths watering, their eyes searching for the small wooden stand that had become a legend. It was Baba Karim's spot, the most famous meat grill joint in Zaduna city. No matter how many other sellers appeared, none could match his taste, his charm, or his magic touch. Every evening, cars parked on both sides of the narrow street, men in suits, women in fancy dresses, bike riders, students, even foreigners. The price of Baba Karim's grilled meat was high, yet nobody complained. "No Karim meat be this they would say proudly as they handed him thick bundles of notes. The meat glowed golden brown on the grill, dripping with spicy oil that made tongues dance with fire and sweetness. Baba Karim himself was a quiet man. He wore the same faded brown robe every day and a pair of worn slippers that looked older than time. His turban was always neatly tied, and his face carried a peaceful smile that made everyone feel welcome. People often joked that if humility had a face, it would be Baba Karim's. Despite his growing fame and wealth, he never changed his simple style, never showed off, and never spoke much about himself. But behind that quiet smile hid a darkness no one could imagine. When the last customer left and the street grew silent, Baba Karim would pack his knives, fold his mat, and blow out his smoky lantern. His smile would fade, replaced by a cold expression that could freeze blood. He lifted a heavy bag filled with money and leftover meat, placed it on his old bicycle, and rode away into the night. The sound of his wheels echoed down the lonely road as the moon watched from above. He left the busy streets of Zaduna and followed a hidden trail surrounded by thick trees. The air grew colder, the noise of the city faded. Deep inside the forest stood a massive iron gate, the secret entrance to his real world. Behind the gate was a grand mansion, shining with lights, tall fences, and luxury cars. Inside, the house glittered with golden chairs, foreign perfumes, and strange paintings that looked like faces crying in pain. In one room, tired, cold, and filled with knives, was his slaughter chamber. There, Baba Karim transformed into someone else entirely. He would take off his brown robe, bathe, and wear fine clothes, expensive shoes, and a golden wristwatch. In the mirror, he looked like a wealthy businessman. "Tonight, another one will come," he would whisper to his reflection, his eyes glowing with wicked pleasure. He drove a black SUV through the forest and into the bright nightlife of Olorin district, a place filled with clubs, bars, and young girls chasing dreams of money. That was his hunting ground. At a club called the Ember, Karim, now calling himself Mr. Idris, threw money in the air, charming everyone. Among the crowd was Tenny, a beautiful lady with long braids and a sweet laugh. She loved luxury, and Mr. Idris looked like the perfect man to spoil her. After a few drinks and dances, he whispered, "Let's go somewhere quiet, my dear." Tenny followed him, enchanted by his charm. They drove far into the dark road. When the forest swallowed the headlights, she began to feel uneasy. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To my private lodge," he replied calmly. Moments later, they stopped in front of the hidden mansion. That night, Tenny never returned. By dawn, her name would join the growing list of missing girls in Zaduna city. Weeks passed, and people whispered, but no one suspected Baba Karim. In fact, his business grew, the aroma of his meat seemed sweeter than ever. People even joked, "Baba Karim's meat fit wake the dead." No one realized the horrible truth: part of the oil that gave his meat that irresistible flavor came from human blood. Every evening, before grilling, Baba Karim would lift his hands and say loudly, "Alhamdulillah," pretending to pray. But in truth, his prayer was not to God. It was to something darker, a spirit that demanded blood for profit and power. People noticed he never ran out of meat, no matter how much he sold. "Baba, where you dey buy your cow from?" someone once asked. He smiled. "Oh, my brother, them bring from my village." And no one asked again. In Zeduna, hunger often silenced suspicion. Inspector Julius Danlamy, recently transferred from Tambora, lived near Mumba Street. Every evening on his walk home, the delicious aroma of Karim's meat tempted him. One Friday night, tired and hungry, he stopped to try it. The flavor was rich, almost too rich. But as he chewed, he felt something strange on his tongue, a tiny piece shaped like a human finger joint. He laughed nervously, thinking it was burnt meat. But that night, he couldn't sleep. His instinct screamed, "Something is wrong." The next day, he returned quietly to watch. From a distance, he studied Baba Karim, his movements, his calmness, his silence whenever someone asked questions. Julius began to investigate. He asked around but found nothing. No one knew where Karim lived or how he got his meat. He decided to follow him one night. From afar, Julius watched as Baba Karim packed up and disappeared down a forest path. He filed a secret report, though his colleagues mocked him. "You dey watch Suya seller like criminal," they laughed. But Julius persisted. He knew evil often wore a kind smile. One moonlit night, Julius and two officers hid inside an unmarked van near the forest. Around 10 p.m., Karim closed shop and disappeared into the woods. They followed quietly until they saw the hidden iron gate. Soon after, the black SUV roared out, driven by Karim, now transformed into Mr. Idris. The officers followed him at a safe distance to another club in Olarin district. There, he met Amira, another young woman. She was charmed by his soft voice and kindness. Within hours, she followed him into his car, just like the others. The officers followed through the dark road. At the mansion, they turned off their lights and waited. Minutes later, a scream shattered the silence. "Move!" Julius shouted. They broke the gate and stormed inside. What they saw froze their blood. Human parts hanging from hooks, bowls filled with blood, and on the metal table, a terrified Amira tied down, while Karim held a knife dripping with red oil. "Police! Drop it!" Julius roared. Karim turned, shocked, then tried to run. A single gunshot hit his leg, sending him crashing to the ground. Amira was rescued, trembling and crying. Karim lay bleeding, whispering, "They will still eat, they always will." By morning, all of Zeduna was in chaos. Headlines screamed. Popular grill seller caught using human meat. Crowds gathered around Mumba Street, weeping, shouting, and vomiting in disgust. Mothers clutched their children, praying for forgiveness. In court, Baba Karim sat in a wheelchair, ice cold and lifeless. The families of the missing girls filled the courtroom, sobbing as the charges were read: murder, ritual sacrifice, and human consumption. When asked if he had anything to say, Karim only smiled and muttered, "They wanted the sweetest meat. I gave it to them." The judge sentenced him to life imprisonment without parole. As he was led away, he whispered, "Even in prison, I will smell the fire." That evening, the people of Mumba Street burned down his stand. The air was thick with smoke once again, but this time, it smelled of cleansing, not evil. Inspector Julius watched the flames rise and said softly, "Evil often hides behind kindness, but truth never stays buried." Moral lesson. Greed blinds judgment, and trust without discernment leads to destruction. No matter how sweet the gift or how humble the giver, always look beyond the surface. Evil wears smiles, but truth always finds the light. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more African story.